Here we go, y'all. I am starting my Grieving as a Christian series with a big topic. I've been wanting to talk about Job's wife for a long time. If you are not familiar with the account of Job, if you've never read the book of Job, it's a really hard read. But the account of Job shows God and Satan looking over Job and discussing him, and Job being a righteous man, God knows that no matter what happens to him, he will remain faithful to God. And so he allows Satan to touch Job in multiple ways. Now, keep in mind, this was the Old Testament, a different dispensation of time that is completely different than how God operates today. And that is a topic that I'm going to cover in this series as well. So, we look at this account of Job. We see that God allows Satan to take Job's flocks and his servants and his children and even his health. And then we see what follows, the account of Job crying out to God, his friends coming and trying to comfort him, and they get it wrong, and all of the things that ensue before God restores everything back to Job. I want to talk about Job 2 verse 9, where we read the only account we have of Job's wife saying, "Curse God and die." Why do I want to talk about this? Stick with me, hear me out till the end, and keep an open mind. If you're a Christian and you've heard any sermons about Job and about Job's wife, raise your hand if the only sermons you've ever heard vilified Job's wife. I have never heard a sermon where Job's wife was spoken of with any sort of compassion or with any sort of sympathy for her situation. Now, specifically, what I want to talk about is the word that's translated as curse. I love and use the King James Version of the Bible. It is the closest translation to the original Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic languages. However, there are some topics that we really need to go back and look at the original language and put it in its context to make sure that we're understanding it completely. I don't claim to be a Bible scholar. I don't claim to be an expert, but I want you to keep an open mind for what I'm going to share, and we'll reconvene at the end. So I want to talk about the Hebrew word barak. This is the word that is translated as curse. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it, but the word barak, B-A-R-A-K, it's a Hebrew word, and I'm reading for you right now from the Blue Letter Bible website, where it shows translations of this word being bless, salute, curse, blaspheme, blessing, praised, kneel down, congratulate, kneel, make to kneel. So my point here is, this word in different places in the Bible is translated differently. Could this be an instance where man has translated this word to mean something that we assume is a bad thing? Before I dig into that a little more, I want to share with you a couple more examples of words in the Bible that have different translations. Have you ever heard the story about the first time Jesus performed a miracle and he was at a wedding and he turned water to wine? And we assume that wine always means alcoholic or fermented fruit juice. It doesn't always mean that. There are other Greek words that in English are translated to the word wine, and I'm going to show you some examples here on the screen. So you see there's multiple Greek words that have been translated to the English word wine. Some mean alcoholic wine and some mean fruit juice. So this is just an example of the translations can mean different things. Okay, and another example that I want to share is the word love. We can see also using this lexicon, there are multiple examples of Greek words that are translated to the English word love. When we read our Bible and we see the word love, if we go back and look at the original Greek word, or in the Old Testament would be a Hebrew word, the word love could be brotherly love. It could be godly love. We have to take it in context, okay? So I'm just showing you these examples because I want you to understand where I'm coming from as I continue my thought process here about Job's wife. When we read Old Testament accounts, the Old Testament takes place in a dispensation of time where God's law was physical. There were physical punishments for transgressing God's law. Some examples are when Nadab and Abihu offered strange fire, they were struck dead instantly. When Uzzah reached his hand up to touch the Ark of the Covenant to keep it from falling off of a wagon, he died instantly. Nadab and Abihu's intentions were bad. Uzzah's intentions were good. But they all died because they had gone against God's law. When looking at the account of Job and his wife, when she says that phrase that she says in Job 2:9, did God strike her dead? Did he punish her in any way? This is a big deal because if you have not buried a child, you can't possibly fathom the pain that Job's wife was experiencing. Whatever she said, she was in excruciating pain. Her 10 children had died. I'm not going to dig into that entire verse and pick apart every single word and compare it to the original Hebrew word and go into what all of it could possibly mean, because I don't have to. When we look at this account, we see that God did not punish her for what she said. So if she had been blaspheming God, would she not have been struck dead? Would she not have been punished physically? In addition to this, we also see in Job chapter 42, where Job confesses of having spoken out against things he didn't understand, and where God ordered Job's friends to make sacrifices because they had spoken out incorrectly as well. But we have no account of Job's wife receiving any sort of reprimand for her words. I am curious why this word was translated to the English word curse. I'm curious how this came to be. There's a lot of factors involved as to why man would say that Job's wife was saying curse God. Something I have wondered is if God allowed it to be this way and God didn't give us any more information about Job's wife for the purpose of how we would handle this scripture when we came to it. What we would do with this information. Would we look on Job's wife with pity and sympathy, or would we look on Job's wife with judgment? So if you are a Bible scholar and everything I've said has infuriated you and you're determined that you want to correct my misinformation about this verse and about Job's wife, please consider before commenting, what is the purpose of you wanting to correct me if I'm wrong? What's going to come of it? What good will come of you proving to a woman whose child is dead that a woman in the Bible whose children died blasphemed God? Because I don't believe that she did. Because if she had, she would have been punished. There's probably a lot more I could say about this, but I am feeling a huge weight off of my chest now that I have put this out there for you. Hopefully it will help you feel more comforted, especially if your children or child has died, and to help us see that we have to be very careful with the scriptures and how that we can make assumptions about what they mean. The last thing that I want to mention about this account of Job and his wife is this. After Satan had been allowed to torture Job, God restored him back his blessings. Remember, this was a time where the law was physical and blessings were physical and punishment was physical. Job was restored everything double what it had been to start with, except for his children. Stick with me here. Job had 10 children who died. And if God was restoring everything he lost double, why didn't he give him 20 more children? We see in the account of Job that he was given 10 more children. Why didn't he get 20 children? Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Job didn't get 20 children after his 10 children died because his 10 dead children were still his children. When your child dies, they're still your child, you're still their parent. Just because they're not here physically does not mean they're not still your child. And this is an example of how God shows us that children are not replaceable. God didn't replace his 10 children with 10 more children. He added 10 more children, giving him now double the children he had. So he gave him double flocks, but in doubling his children, he gave him 10 more because his first 10 children still count. When someone's baby dies and your thought is, well, they can have another one, or they should be grateful for the children they still have, that is actually not a biblical or a Christian mindset to have. Not only is it not helpful, not only is it insensitive and thoughtless and even cruel, it's completely incorrect because children are irreplaceable. I could adopt 1,000,000 more little girls and not a one of them, none of them combined, would replace my daughter. And this account of Job and his wife and their 10 children dying and God blessing them with 10 more children, meaning they now have 20 children, although 10 are in heaven and 10 are on earth, shows us that God understands that our children are not replaceable. And that our children, even though they are dead, are still our children. Please understand, I'm not trying to be bitter. I'm not trying to be mean or teach someone a lesson. I am trying to open conversation. I am trying to help you be open-minded about the things that we think and the things that we say that are so hurtful and so wrong when it comes to grief and death and the death of our children, and how we can better comfort each other, especially as Christians. For me personally, it hurts more when my Christian brothers and sisters are the ones who leave me feeling less supported and less loved. Okay, if you're new to me and you haven't subscribed yet and you actually find my ramblings helpful, go ahead and subscribe and tap that bell so that YouTube will let you know when my next video comes out. When I release my next video in the series, I'll be sure to put a link right here so that if you're seeing this video after the series has already come out, you'll be able to just go right into the next video of this series. In the meantime, check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks that you might want to watch next. And let me know what you thought about this video and what other topics that you would like for me to cover, especially around grieving as a Christian. What resonates with you? What has your experience been? What would you like for me to talk about next so that you have something that you can show others to show that you are not crazy, you're not the only one who feels this way, and how they can better support you in your grief. Until next time, bye y'all. Like the bunny's decided to be as loud as bunnily possible right now. I've never heard them scratch this much.